Hello, Intro to Algebra students. We're looking at Chapter 3, Lesson 5, Graph a Line Using Intercepts. And we should be at least a little bit familiar with slope-intercept form, where we've got y equals mx plus b. And we have kind of a new idea that the x-intercept of a line is the x-coordinate of a point where the line crosses the x-axis. And you should be familiar already with the y-intercept is where the line crosses the y-axis. So when we have any kind of line, we have our x-intercept, where it crosses the x-axis, and our y-intercept, where it crosses the y-axis. So that's kind of what we're talking about today. So in problem number 1, we're to state the x and y-intercept of the equation y equals 1.5x minus 9. And then we're going to use the intercepts to graph the equation. So to find the intercepts, we need to look at those zero values. Remember, when we're finding the x-intercept, that's when y is equal to 0. So I'm going to rewrite the equation. And since I'm finding the x-intercept, I'm going to make y 0. And then I'm going to solve the equation for x. Now that means I need to get x by itself. I'm going to start by adding 9 to both sides. This is that equation solving stuff. Get the variable by itself. And to finish getting that x by itself, I would divide both sides by 1.5. And 9 divided by 1.5 gives me 6. Now remember, your intercept is a point. So that intercept means that x is 6 when y is 0. So that's the point 6, 0 on the graph. Going across 6 and up 0. That's where it crosses the x-axis. Now we want to find the y-intercept. Remember, the y-intercept is when x is equal to 0. So I'm going to rewrite the equation. But this time I'm going to make the x 0. And I get the y is already by itself. 1.5 times 0 is just 0. And 0 minus 9 is negative 9. The y-intercept is the y value, negative 9, when x is 0. 0, negative 9. And graph that. This should make sense because in our form, y equals mx plus b, that b value is the y-intercept. So hopefully kind of learning to recognize that even if you don't plug in the 0 for x. Now we can take those two intercepts and create our line, which shows all the possibilities of ordered pairs that would work for that equation. A good way to double check that you're heading literally in the right direction is that the slope is positive 1.5. So when you're finished, you do want to make a mental check that your line is going up if your slope is positive, and this one is. We're asked to do the same thing for got it A and B. We've got y is equal to negative 1/3 x plus 5, and you're graphing using the intercepts. Now, if we remember correctly, this is in slope-intercept form. So this is your y-intercept. We just change it to the ordered pairs 0, 5. For our x-intercept, That's where we make y equal to 0 and solve for x. So I'm going to rewrite the equation. Make y 0. And start solving to get x by itself. I should start by subtracting 5 from both sides. That's going to give me negative 5 is equal to negative 1/3 x. I'm just going to move that over here to give myself a little more room to work. My next step to getting x by itself is to divide by the negative 1/3. That will cancel. Negative 5 divided by negative 1/3 is a positive 15. So that ordered pair is 15, 0. Now because my ordered pair of 15, 0 has such a high number in it, I need to watch my scale. So I'm going to count by something other than ones just so I can make sure to fit everything on my graph. So I'm going to count by 2s. Now I like to count the same in both directions to keep it even, but you could change one axis and not the other. Okay, so that's going to put 15, 0 right after 14, but not to 16 yet. Then for my y-axis, again, I'm just going to count by the same thing, so 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. But my y-intercept was just at 0, 5, so that's going to put that right between 4 and 6. And then I will connect them with a line. Again, just as a mental quick check, our slope is negative, our line is going down to left to right, and that is a good sign. We're doing the same process for letter B. We've got y is equal to negative 3/2 x plus 3. Determine the y-intercept and enter it on Edpuzzle. Your y-intercept should be 0, 3. Next, determine your x-intercept. Remember, your x-intercept is when y is 0. So I'm going to plug in 0 for y and solve for x. Solve for x and enter your answer on Edpuzzle. You should have subtracted 3 from both sides. And then divided both sides by negative 3/2. That gives you x is 2. So the x-intercept is 2, 0. Now we want to graph them. We're graphing the y-intercept at 0, 3, and the x-intercept at 2, 0. And you draw a line to connect them. The next thing we're going to look at is standard form. That's when an equation is written in ax plus by equals c. So a is greater than or equal to 0, and a, b, and c are integers. It's called written in standard form. So you have slope-intercept form, which is y equals mx plus b, and standard form. Standard form is used a lot in real-life situations. So we'll use standard form when we're doing stories a lot or real-life stuff. So as I mentioned, the standard form, ax plus by equals c, is good for stories.